What if love was stronger than power? Let me tell you a story from the heart of Africa. The city of Lagos pulsed with the rhythm of ambition. Towering buildings cast long shadows over crowded streets, where horns and shouts merged into a restless hum. David sat in the back of his father's armored SUV, staring through tinted glass at the chaos outside. From the outside, he looked like a man who had everything, a designer suit, inherited power, and the calm of privilege. But beneath that calm, something hollow echoed. His father's empire stretched across oil, politics, and influence. Their mansion was full of guests whose laughter never reached their eyes. David had learned early that wealth could buy loyalty, but not truth. He felt like a prince trapped in a castle built of silence. That evening, the car stopped by Lekki Market. The driver waited for a convoy to clear the road. David's eyes caught a young woman at a fruit stall, her laughter bright against the noise. She wasn't just beautiful, she was alive in a way he had forgotten humans could be. Joy didn't notice the expensive car watching her. She was busy teasing a little boy who had stolen a mango. For the first time in years, David felt something pierce through his indifference, curiosity. That night, chandeliers bathed the Raymond mansion in gold. David sat among senators, tycoons, and heirs. Every laugh, every toast, felt hollow. But Joy's laughter lingered in his mind like a melody he couldn't silence. Chief Raymond, his father, noticed. "David," he said, voice firm and deep, "power listens to confidence, not silence." David nodded, pretending to care. But as he stared into his wine, he saw not an heir, but a stranger in a mirror. Days later, David returned to the market. He left his SUV behind and walked through the crowd, blending with the noise of bargaining voices. When he saw Joy again, sunlight streaked her face like a quiet blessing. "You're back," she said teasingly. "Don't tell me you came to buy tomatoes." He smiled. "Maybe I came for the mangoes." "Mangoes?" she laughed. "You rich people don't even know how to pick ripe ones." Her laughter felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. In that moment, David didn't want to be Chief Raymond's son. He just wanted to be a man named David. Weeks passed. He returned often, sometimes to buy fruit, other times to talk. The market women whispered, amused at the rich man who carried baskets and jokes. Joy was different. She didn't flatter him, and didn't fear him. She spoke of dreams, of opening a grocery shop, sending her brother to school. David found peace in her simplicity. For the first time, wealth felt meaningless. Chief Raymond noticed the change. "You've missed 2 board meetings," he said sharply. "I just need time to think," David replied. "Think? Men like us don't have that luxury. You're next in line for an empire. Don't be weak." The word stung, but David said nothing. That night, he found Joy closing her stall under soft rain. "You look tired," she said. "Family things," he sighed. "Then stop pretending to be someone you're not." Simple words, but they hit like truth. Their love grew quietly, away from curious eyes. David found joy in the small, shared meals, laughter, the smell of rain. He was learning to live outside walls and chauffeurs. But secrets always find the light. One evening by the lagoon, he told her who he truly was. "You're Chief Raymond's son," she whispered. "The man whose company took our land." "I didn't know," he said desperately. "I swear I didn't." Tears welled in her eyes. "Then maybe you should learn what your wealth costs people like us." She walked away, leaving him with guilt heavier than gold. For days, Joy avoided him. The market turned cold. David realized his name wasn't a privilege, it was a wound. When she finally spoke to him again, she said quietly, "You're kind, David. But your world crushes mine." He reached for her hand. "Then let me change my world." She shook her head sadly. "You can't change a storm from inside its eye." David began to rebel. He ignored board meetings, skipped dinners, and funded community projects anonymously. His father thundered. "You're throwing away your future for a girl from the market." David looked him in the eye. Maybe power isn't the only thing worth building. He walked out of the mansion that night with nothing but conviction. Months later, Joy opened her small shop. When David arrived, no guards, no car, she was surprised. "You left it all?" she asked. "Everything," he said. "My father called it foolish." She smiled. "Maybe it's freedom." They stood together amid ripe fruit and soft sunlight. Their life was humble but full. David helped Joy at the shop, learning her world of sweat, laughter, and hope. Then one evening, his mother called. "Your father collapsed," she whispered. At the hospital, Chief Raymond lay pale and still. When he opened his eyes, he rasped, "Don't waste what I built." David held his hand. "I won't, Father. But I won't live it your way." The old man gave a faint smile before sleep claimed him again. Weeks passed. The press learned of David's disappearance from corporate life. Headlines screamed, "Chief's son abandons empire for market girl." His father's associates mocked him. But David no longer cared. He had found something power couldn't give, peace. Joy's business grew. Her kindness drew loyal customers. David supported her quietly, through anonymous donations. Still, whispers lingered. Market men teased her, "The rich boy is your savior." She bristled. "He's not saving me. We're building together." David knew he'd always be an outsider. But when Joy looked at him, he felt seen. That was enough. One night, rain fell softly on Lagos. They sheltered under a tin roof. "Do you ever regret meeting me?" he asked. "Sometimes," she said, laughing at his startled face. "But only because you make me dream of things I never thought possible." He took her hand. "Maybe that's what love is, dreaming together." And she leaned into him, smiling through the rain. Time moved on. Chief Raymond's empire began to collapse under corruption and betrayal. David watched from a distance, no anger, only sadness. Then his mother came to the market one afternoon. "Your father is dying," she said softly. "He wants to see you." At the mansion, silence hung heavy. When David entered, his father whispered, "You found peace." "I never did." "You still can," David said. The old man smiled faintly. "No. But you can." Those were his last words. The funeral drew the city's elite. Cameras flashed. Politicians wept. David stood apart, holding his mother's hand, feeling both burden and release. Afterwards, he returned to Joy's shop. She said nothing, only hugged him. For the first time, David wept freely, not as a son of power, but as a man grieving. Months passed. David refused his inheritance, donating it to education and rebuilding projects. "You've given up too much," Joy said. He shook his head. "No, Joy. I'm finally learning what enough means." She smiled. "Then let's build our enough together." But peace rarely lasts. Developers came with blueprints, plans to demolish the market for a luxury mall. The people panicked. David's fury ignited. This time, he wouldn't be silent. He organized the traders, using his knowledge of law and media. Joy saw a new strength in him, conviction, not rebellion. Together, they became the voice of the voiceless. The fight was brutal. Threats came, bribes were offered, officials warned him to stop. But David refused. "I spent years being silent," he said. "Not anymore." When the court finally ruled for the market, cheers erupted. Joy's shop became a symbol of hope. That night, by the lagoon, she whispered, "You changed everything." He smiled. No. You reminded me why I needed to. The next year brought quiet prosperity. Joy's shop expanded into a grocery, employing women and offering credit to the poor. David wrote essays about justice and love. His name became a quiet legend, the billionaire's son who chose conscience over comfort. They walked hand in hand through narrow streets, surrounded by fried plantain and laughter. Have you ever thought of leaving Lagos? Joy asked. Sometimes, he said. But maybe the city still needs fixing. Then we'll fix it together, she smiled. If you're still watching, hit subscribe, these stories deserve to live forever. A journalist came for an interview. The article, The Market and the Air, went viral. People called them a modern fairy tale. Fame followed. Invitations arrived. Old associates returned, cloaked in flattery. You can't hide forever, Joy told him. Maybe this is how you change the world, by standing where it can see you. David began giving talks on ethics and reform. He became a conscience for a restless nation. But fame attracts shadows. Rumors spread, that Joy used him, that he wanted power again. They'll always try to define us, he said. Then let's make our truth too loud to ignore, she replied. One evening, Joy waited on the porch, eyes shining. David, she said softly, I'm pregnant. Silence. Then laughter. Then tears. We're going to be parents, he whispered, trembling with joy. Months passed in tender chaos, doctor visits, baby clothes, endless dreams. When their daughter, Ijeoma, was born, the world seemed to pause. Her cry was both a beginning and a promise. She's our new beginning, Joy said. David kissed her forehead. And maybe the world's too. One night, a black SUV stopped David on his way home. Men stepped out. You've made enemies, one said. Stay out of their affairs. David didn't flinch. When he told Joy, she trembled. Maybe we should leave. If we run, who fights for those who can't, he asked. Weeks later, their shop was vandalized, windows shattered, goods destroyed. Still, the community rallied around them. Joy said quietly, you can walk away. He shook his head. If I walk away, everything loses meaning. She sighed. Then we walked through it. David began training young activists, teaching courage with compassion. His movement grew, small but fearless. One night, he received a call. You think you can change this country? A voice hissed. You'll learn the hard way. He hung up calmly. They said change is dangerous, he told Joy. Then let's be dangerous together, she said. The next morning, the newspaper screamed, reformist David Raymond threatens old order. Lagos buzzed with tension. Days later, David went for a live interview. Power means nothing without morality, he said on air. The clip went viral. Leaving the studio, a black car followed his taxi. At Yaba Junction, it blocked the road. Gunshots shattered the silence. The world went dark. Hours later, chaos. Headlines roared, activist David Raymond shot in Lagos. Joy's scream tore through the hospital corridors. For 2 days, he hovered between life and death. Candles burned in the streets. Strangers prayed. When he finally opened his eyes, Joy was there, tears falling. You came back, she whispered. I promised, he breathed. The bullet missed his heart but left him scarred. He would walk again, slowly, painfully, but alive. The people rose in anger. Protests filled Lagos. David became a symbol of endurance. They tried to silence me, he said months later, voice raspy. But love has louder echoes than bullets. The crowd wept. After recovery, they moved to a quiet town near the hills. Joy wanted Ijeoma to grow far from chaos. They built a small home surrounded by orange trees. Some evenings, Joy watched David limp through the garden with their daughter. "You walk like an old man," she teased. He smiled. "Then you'll love me longer." Years passed softly. David wrote essays read across the country. He never returned to politics, but his words became his legacy. Joy's store grew into a cooperative run by women from nearby towns. Their life was simple, full, and true. Sometimes at night, Joy would find David awake, staring through the window. "What are you thinking about?" she'd ask. "My father," he'd say. "And whether he'd be proud." She'd rest her head on his shoulder. "He should be. The world is." Years later, Ijeoma came running with a newspaper. "Papa, they're teaching your story in school." The headline read, "The Man Who Chose Love Over Power." David smiled faintly. "I just wanted peace." Joy touched his arm. "And you found it, in us." He nodded, eyes misty. For a man who once had everything and nothing, he finally understood what true wealth meant. Time flowed quietly. David and Joy grew old together, their laughter fading into soft memory. Then one rainy evening, Joy fell ill. The fever burned through her like fire. David sold everything for her treatment, but her strength waned. In her final moments, she whispered, "You gave me a beautiful life, David. Don't stop living when I'm gone." He begged her not to leave. But her hand went still. Months turned to years. David became a quiet storyteller in the market. People came to him for advice, not goods. "There once was a man," he'd begin, "who had everything but peace." Children listened. Traders smiled. His voice carried wisdom born of love and loss. One night, David sat outside his small shop, watching the stars. He felt Joy's presence, soft, warm, eternal. He smiled, closed his eyes, and drifted into the quiet he had sought all his life. In the morning, the market found him gone, resting peacefully in his chair. The wind carried whispers through the stalls. Of love that defied wealth. Of a man who found truth in simplicity. Of Joy, who had lived up to her name. Somewhere beyond the noise of Lagos, two souls walked hand in hand again. Free at last. If this story touched your heart, like, comment, and share it with someone who needs hope.